At NASA Langley, I develop inflatable heat shields for spacecraft that will allow us to reduce the cost of sending things to space and even let us land humans on Mars.
I test space capsules so astronauts can land safely in the ocean.
I imagine, then engineer, far-out missions to explore the solar system and beyond.
At NASA Langley, I create systems to make machines smarter so they can act independently, even in outer space.
At NASA Langley, I use robots to design lightweight, energy-efficient structures for air and spacecraft.
At NASA Langley, I design systems that allow small satellites to link themselves together to allow more flexible construction in space.
At NASA Langley, I build instruments that monitor and track the recovery of the ozone layer from the International Space Station.
I study how accurately we need to measure clouds from satellites to get a better idea of how climate is changing.
So we can make smarter and more cost-effective decisions about climate change.
I fly airplanes to improve aviation technology and climate science.
I test wind tunnel models at NASA Langley to design planes that are quieter, more fuel efficient, and produce fewer emissions.
At NASA Langley, I develop environmentally friendly electric aircraft that are going to transform aviation.
Good afternoon, and I'm Dave Bowles, the Center Director here at NASA Langley, and I hope you enjoyed the video highlighting some of the great things we do here at the Center. It's an honor to welcome you to Langley today, and I'd like to personally thank Administrator Charlie Bolden for selecting us to host today's special event, the annual State of the Agency. Established here in Hampton, Virginia in 1917, Langley was our nation's first civilian aeronautical research laboratory and the original field center for what was later to become NASA. For nearly a century, our halls and labs have echoed with the voices of great aerospace pioneers and their triumphs that have paved the way for our country's leadership in aerospace, in aeronautics, space exploration, scientific discovery, and technological breakthroughs. We're holding today's event from Langley's research hangar. And right behind me, you can see suspended from the ceiling the historic Rendezvous and Docking Simulator. This is where, in the 1960s, the Gemini and Apollo astronauts practiced doing the in-space docking maneuver that would ultimately land us on the moon. This is just one of the many historic contributions Langley has made to NASA and our nation. But as proud as we are of our storied past, we are also preparing for a soaring future. Just outside is the construction of a new 40,000 square foot computational research facility that will house powerful computers to help push the boundaries of modeling and simulation. And later this year, we'll break ground on a new 175,000 square foot state-of-the-art laboratory that will integrate teams from across Langley, allowing for system engineering solutions that span concept to flight and research and development. What we do here supports every NASA mission, but none of it would be possible without all of you, the people who do all the great things. It's a privilege truly to come to work every day and be surrounded by employees full of passion, creativity, and a desire to make our world a better place today, a better place to go tomorrow, and for the benefit of all humankind.
We're on a journey that started with the dreams and determination of men and women around this nation. A journey that set course from Florida's Space Coast. A journey of real innovators from California's Silicon Valley. A voyage of experimentation soaring above the Tidewater region and the high southern desert of California. One of humankind's greatest adventures, a magnificent journey that took vision from Texas to Ohio, from Louisiana to Alabama, and from all around this great nation.
The start of anything substantial begins with a dream.
From dreamers come documents and plans, onward to projects and field tests. That moment of execution comes as the dream lights up and literally bursts into reality.
Welcome to NASA, where every day at every NASA center, these dreams come true.
In offices, cubicles, hallways, hangars, and clean rooms.
On launch pads, in cockpits.
At desktop observatories, and continually.
For more than 15 years aboard the International Space Station.
Investments in NASA are creating jobs across America.
Innovative jobs that are critical for our journey to Mars.
Jobs that make air travel safer and increase knowledge of our ever-changing climate.
Our journey of exploration continues.
Not as a dream, but as a reality.
We're reaching new heights and revealing the unknown for the benefit of all humankind.
Every day and on every project.
We are your National Aeronautics
and Space Administration.
We are your National Aeronautics and Space Administration.
Join our journey
as we invest in your future.
All right, so there's one person in particular who personifies the passion you just saw in that video for our people, for our mission, and our future. And it's NASA Administrator Charlie Bolden. What NASA does is hard, and hard takes time. Whether working on NASA's journey to Mars, or a better understanding of our changing climate, or making aircraft quieter, safer, and more efficient. Administrators Bolden's and the administration's focus, commitment, and consistency of purpose have paved the way for our success. I personally want to thank the administrator for his support. His passion and vision have helped all of us not only deliver on today's commitments, but also prepare for the challenges tomorrow. So ladies and gentlemen, it's my great honor now to introduce the Administrator of NASA, Charlie Bolden.
Thanks very much, Dave, and thanks to all of you for coming out today, both here in this hangar, but also across the nation at our various NASA centers. You know, this has been quite a year for your Langley milestones, not the least of which is the fact that we can now refer to my friend, our friend, Dave, as Director David Bowles, as a result of my decision to bring your former Center Director, Steve Jerzik, not to even count taking Lisa Rowe away earlier. From great places and great things come great people. Just remember that, all right? But bringing Steve Jerzik up to headquarters to serve as the Associate Administrator for the Space Technology Mission Directorate. What's more, Langley marked the 95th anniversary of the first federally funded wind tunnel, and you joined the entire NASA family in celebrating the 100th anniversary of our predecessor, the NACA. I'd be remiss also as we talk about our progress from air to space if I didn't mention that this amazing center is preparing to celebrate its 100th anniversary next year. Wow. This has been quite a year for aviation anniversaries, and I think there's a real parallel between the birth of aviation and what we're experiencing today in terms of commercial space. Both are stories about how we were able to accomplish great things when we combined strategic government investment and research with the native genius of American inventors and industry. Speaking of accomplishing great things, this year, one of the giants in Langley history received the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And I'll try not to choke up as I tell you this story. Some of you may have worked with her before. Before her retirement in 1986,
after 33 years of service to Langley, to NASA, and to the United States of America. Her name is Katherine Johnson. She's an African-American woman who grew up during segregation at a time when it wasn't easy breaking into engineering, either as a woman or an African-American. Katherine joined Langley in the NACA days and went on to play a role in virtually every major NASA space mission from Mercury through the space shuttle. She also quite literally wrote the textbook on rocket science. Now, I mentioned Katherine Johnson for a reason. Andrew Carnegie once said, and I quote, "Take away my people, but leave my factories, and soon grass will grow on the factory floors. But take away my factories and leave my people, and soon we will have new and better factories," unquote. It's because of the legacy of NASA employees like Katherine Johnson. It's because of your work here at Langley. It's because of the work of your colleagues at our NASA centers around the country. It's because of the work of our contractors and our partners in classrooms, boardrooms, laboratories, and even garages across our country that the state of our NASA is as strong as it's ever been. And when I say our, I really mean it. Because of the work you and your NASA colleagues to make aviation greener, cleaner, safer, and quieter, the state of our NASA is strong. Because NASA's study of the cosmos and robotic exploration of the solar system is unlocking the mysteries of places like Pluto, the Kuiper Belt, Jupiter, Europa, the Sun, Saturn, her moons, and Mars. The state of our NASA is strong. Because NASA Earth Science is teaching us about our own planet's oceans, atmosphere, surface, energy cycle, water cycle, carbon cycle, weather, and changing climate, the state of our NASA is strong. Because astronauts have been working off the Earth for 15 continuous years aboard the International Space Station, and they will be through at least 2024, the state of our NASA is strong. It's also strong because of the work that so many in our NASA family are doing to support the station's operations and scientific research. It's strong because our commercial partners are transforming the U.S. space industry, opening up new markets and reducing the costs of space travel. It's strong because we're launching cargo to the space station from American soil and preparing to return human spaceflight launches to the U.S. as well. In fact, last year, we announced that 4 Americans, Bob Behnken, Sonny Williams, Eric Bowe, and Doug Hurley, will be the first NASA astronauts to train and fly on privately owned spacecraft. The state of our NASA is strong because our most recent astronaut class, for the first time in history, has the equal number of females and male candidates. And I will remind you, we started with a little over 6,300 applicants, and we ended up selecting 8, 4 women, 4 men, who are absolutely incredible. And because we're accepting applications through February 18th for a new diverse generation of astronauts that will blaze a trail to Mars. Because NASA and our partners are developing the technologies that drive both exploration and economic growth, I have 1,600 more reasons that the state of our NASA is strong. The 1,600 new technologies every year that we develop and the thousands of products, services, and processes that we help businesses transfer into the market for job creation and economic growth. While we're at it, the state of our nation is strong because more venture capital was invested in America's space industry in 2015
than in all previous 15 years combined. Meanwhile, because for the 4th year in a row, we are the #1 rated best place to work in the federal government, the state of our NASA is strong. Because our people are making strides every day to encourage more Americans from underserved communities to pursue careers in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, the state of our NASA is strong. Because we're hitting our benchmarks with new exploration systems like the Space Launch System rocket and the Orion crew vehicle. Because a new consensus is emerging in the scientific and policy communities around our vision, timetable, and plan for sending American astronauts to Mars in the 2030s. Because more and more our neighbors are finding new meanings in the words, Mars matters. And because we are closer today than ever before in human history, to sending American astronauts to the red planet, the state of our NASA is strong. Because the state of our NASA is strong, President Obama is recommending a $19 billion budget for the next year to carry out our ambitious exploration and scientific discovery plans. In fact, over his tenure, President Obama has now invested $147 billion in America's space program. Our elected leaders, on a bipartisan basis, have chosen to make this investment in our agency because they believe NASA's journey to Mars, and they recognize that investments in NASA's present are investments in our future. A future where we send American astronauts to Mars in the 2030s. A future where more Americans are making a good living working in STEM-based careers that pay well and contribute to our global economic competitiveness. And when I say more Americans, I mean all Americans, including women and minorities who are underrepresented in these fields today. A future where our children and grandchildren, special to me, my 3 granddaughters, breathe cleaner air, drink cleaner water, and fly on cleaner, greener, more fuel-efficient aircraft. A future where humankind has a deeper understanding of our universe, our place in it, and our own planet. If you take a step back for a moment and reflect on what NASA's work means to our everyday lives here on Earth, it's very clear to me that every American benefits in some ways from NASA's journey to Mars. Think about it. As we speak, there are Americans who are working today in virtually every state in jobs that are funded by NASA investments. Think of what it means to a young girl or boy who is able to go to school with a full stomach and decent school supplies because their parents have good jobs. Think of what it means to the person who runs a deli next to one of more than 1,000 companies working in support of NASA's commercial space endeavors. Beyond that, think of what investments in NASA means to someone whose husband or wife is alive today, thanks to NASA-driven advances in medicine. To a grandparent whose grandkids are driving over to their home, guided by GPS, on safer tires and safer highways. To a baby who is eating safer food. To a family gathered around the television set, watching a movie delivered to Earth via satellite signal. Think of what it means to a community when NASA technologies are used to purify their drinking water or listen for beating hearts in the rubble after a natural disaster. One of the most fortuitous things about investments in NASA
is that we leverage them. We're able to walk and chew gum at the same time. Not everybody can do that. What I mean by that is we're able to achieve all these earthly benefits while still pushing farther out into the universe, while moving closer to sending human beings to Mars and to answering some of the oldest questions in the history of human civilization, including the question of whether we are alone in this universe. This is what we mean by reaching new heights for the benefit of all humankind. The investments in the President's FY 2017 budget proposal announced today will empower the people of NASA to improving our quality of life today and preparing to send American astronauts to Mars in the 2030s. We'll continue to make great progress on the Space Launch System, or SLS rocket, and we're preparing for a second series of engine tests. At the Kennedy Space Center, our team will outfit Orion's crew module with the spacecraft's heat-shielding thermal protection systems, avionics and subsystems like electrical power storage, cabin pressure control, and flight software, to name just a few. Direct field acoustic testing will be completed in Colorado. Structural integrity test will be performed at Glenn, which celebrated its 75th anniversary this year. And splashdown tests, as I saw this morning, will be performed right here at Langley. At the same time, we'll continue to work with partners both in and out of government to develop the technologies that drive exploration, create jobs, and continue to make launches more affordable. From small satellites to humanoid robots, to green propellants and advanced navigation systems, our colleagues are working on what William Shakespeare would call such stuff as dreams are made of. In the coming year, we'll test an expandable space habitat aboard the space station that could lay the groundwork for giving our astronauts a place to live during long-duration space missions. Speaking of the space station, in March, Scott Kelly will return home from his year in space, the first ever by an American astronaut. In March, astronaut Jeff Williams will become the first American to spend three long-duration expeditions aboard the International Space Station. In May, astronaut Kate Rubins launches to the ISS and plans to become the first person to perform DNA sequencing in space after she arrives at the station. In November, astronaut Peggy Whitson, once one of my principal investigators, former Expedition 16 commander, will add to the 192 days she's already logged in space and become the only woman to fly 2 missions on the ISS. Next year, we'll announce a new team of astronaut candidates, the next generation of space explorers who will leave planet Earth from U.S. soil and carry out missions to advance America's journey to Mars. Meanwhile, as we broaden the robotic exploration of our solar system and beyond, this year will bring us a lot of excitement. Juno's arrival at Jupiter, further progress on the James Webb Space Telescope, missions to study cosmic rays and neutron stars, and the launch of OSIRIS-REx, the first U.S. spacecraft to collect samples from an asteroid and turn them home to Earth. Here on Earth, we'll move closer toward making the next generation of air traffic management a reality. We'll continue your work to make flight even safer, to make it quieter, and through a healthy investment in aeronautics, we'll reach new heights in pursuit of making it cleaner and greener. In the coming years, we'll accelerate aviation energy efficiency. We'll transform propulsion systems, and we'll enable major improvements in aviation mobility. After 6 years of cutting-edge research, we've learned that we could save the commercial airline industry as much as $255 billion, that's
billion with a B dollars over 25 years. And these findings came before this investment in aviation. More importantly, we might just help save our planet from the effects of our changing climate. Speaking of Earth, the most important planet, the next year will see a continuation of our important work on Earth science take shape, including ocean observations that will allow us to track the rise of global sea levels and better forecast the strength of hurricanes, tides, and currents. As I wrap up, I want to make one final point. Among the big anniversaries we celebrated this year, we also marked 5 years since President Obama laid out his plan for NASA and for a journey to Mars that will take American astronauts to the Red Planet in the 2030s. I mentioned earlier that there's a bipartisan consensus emerging around this plan and timetable, and it's a consensus that extends far beyond Washington to the various corners of science, policy, higher learning, industry, nonprofits, citizen scientists, and so forth. Less often are folk asking, why aren't you doing things my way? Or, is Mars the right destination? Rather, today they're asking, how can we be a part of this? And what are some of the areas in which we can work together? I like to think that part of this is because our plan is clear, affordable, sustainable, and attainable. Another reason is simply because Mars matters. Mars does matter. I've spent a lot of time today talking about the future, our immediate future and the decades ahead. The truth is that the only thing we can hope to know for certain about our future is that it's uncertain. Growing up in the segregated South, I never dreamed my own journey would take me to the United States Marine Corps as a combat pilot, let alone to space or to that mysterious planet known as Washington, D.C. I certainly never thought it would take me to the administration of the first black president, or to be administrator of NASA at a time when our people are preparing to return human space launches to American soil and laying the foundation for a journey to Mars. While our future is unknown, we can say with a great deal of certainty that investments in NASA's today are investments in our children's and grandchildren's tomorrow. Ultimately, this tomorrow will be shaped by the choices made by future leaders. When it comes to aeronautics and space, President Obama has set us on a visionary course. It's my sincere hope that future leaders from all sides of the political spectrum will see it through. Because in this tomorrow, we all want our children and grandchildren to breathe cleaner air, drink cleaner water, go to work in good jobs alongside Americans of all genders, races, sexual orientation, ethnicities, and geographic and economic backgrounds in jobs supported by NASA's work. We all want a future where NASA technologies are saving even more lives and improving all of our quality of life. A future where we know more about our solar system and beyond. A future where we have an answer to the age-old question of whether we are alone in the universe. A future where, as President Obama put it, we've pushed further out into the solar system, not just to visit, but this time to stay. A future where there is continuous human presence on Mars. Thanks to each and every one of you, each and every one of you in this audience, each and every one of you in our NASA family around the country. Thanks to each and every one of you. We'll continue to do what it takes
to turn science fiction into science fact and to make the impossible possible. It's because of each and every one of you that I can say right now with great confidence, the state of our NASA is strong.